It's an age thing, I guess. You get to a certain age and things change. I now make involuntary grunting sounds when I sit in a chair and when I stand up again. I stopped taking on fluids around 9:30 in the evening because I want to spend the night in bed, not in the bathroom. My reading glasses have become all the time glasses. The hair on my ears now grows at the same pace that the hair on my head recedes. Even before my wife has finished telling me about a social engagement that we've been invited to, I've already invented an excuse not to attend. And I now hanker for the past, something I swore I'd never, ever do. I remember my father telling me how great things were when he was a lad. Now, admittedly, he did grow up hearing Elvis on the radio, and he once saw Buddy Holly in concert. But he also grew up in a London still reeling from the Blitz. He lived in a house with an outside toilet, and he would bathe once a week in the public baths. I mean, I'm all for a bit of nostalgia, but come on, Dad. And yeah, here I am reminiscing, looking at the past through rose coloured spectacles. I long for the fashion of the 1980s, and even though a lot of it was inspired by an apparently imminent nuclear Armageddon, like 99 Red Balloons, Two Tribes, Dancing with Tears in My Eyes, I long for the music of the 80s as well. I'm not alone. In the demolition and construction industry, there is a tendency to hark back to the good old days. We talk fondly of people we loved and lost, and the machines that shaped the sector. People flock to vintage equipment rallies, partly for that whiff of diesel, but mostly to reacquaint themselves with the machines of years gone by. And they do so not because the machines were better back then, because almost certainly they weren't, but because we were better back then as individuals and as an industry. We've spent decades heaping rules on top of rules and regulations on top of regulations. In doing so, we've made the industry demonstrably worse. Where sites were once filled with self reliant men who took care of themselves and their colleagues, we now operate under the illusion that everything is someone else's job, and that if anything goes wrong, we need to appoint blame rather than take responsibility. We have at our disposal machines more efficient than anything our predecessors could have imagined, and they get more efficient by the day. And yet the industry itself is less productive now than it was 20 or 30 years ago. Losing the camaraderie, the sense of personal responsibility, and the efficiency is sad, of course. What's sadder still, I think, is that we've lost us, what we were as individuals, what we were as an industry. Contracts were once sealed with a handshake. Now we need a team of legal experts to cover all the bases while leaving sufficient loopholes through which to escape should things go awry. A man's word was once his bond. Now we can no longer look each other in the eye without silently weighing up who will stab whom in the back first. We now operate in an industry where honesty is quirky and remarkable, where integrity is so infrequent that it's noteworthy on the rare occasions it's encountered. We've fallen so far that today, anyone displaying trustworthy tendencies is treated with suspicion, derision, and distrust. This industry has long been described as dog eat dog. That expression no longer conveys the reality of a modern world in which big dogs don't just eat smaller dogs, they go out of their way to ensure that all the other dogs die of starvation. Now, I know all of this sounds like things were better in my day, but they really were. Let me give you an example. Way back in the early days of my freelance career, I was approached by an equipment manufacturer to write some press releases. We negotiated and agreed a rate over the phone. I did the work and I sent an invoice. And even though we never met, I got paid on time. Fast forward to this week. I've been approached by another manufacturer, only this time they want me for a social media project. We negotiated and agreed the rate via Microsoft Teams, but I haven't started yet because first I have to go through a 13-page contract, replete with legal jargon, clauses, and subclauses. That insistence on a legally binding contract suggests to me that they don't trust me. As a result, I'm now questioning whether I trust them. I've never dealt with this company before, but they've already raised red flags. If I need a 13-page contract just to do some Instagram posts, what hoops will I have to jump through to get paid? And speaking of getting paid, over the course of the past year, I've been lucky enough to work with companies from around the world. In fact, I can't even remember how many different countries I've sent invoices to. What I can tell you is this. In my experience, both the Canadians and the Chinese pay up quickly, usually ahead of time. The Americans, the Japanese, the Australians, and the Italians tend to pay on time. Yet during the past 12 months, I've had to chase outstanding payments dozens of times. On a few occasions, I've had to threaten legal action. In every single instance, the company withholding the money was British. So even though I swore I would never refer to the years gone by as the good old days, they really were. I hanker for long hair, big shoulder pads, Miami Vice, Linda Lusardi, The Breakfast Club, The Human League, and Ultravox. But most of all, I miss the days when a man's word was his bond, when integrity mattered, and when being honest didn't make you weird.